What's going on, you guys? Back with another monthly recap, and this time we'll be going through September. So, a lot to unpack here. First off, this is my best month, so still making progress, continuing to make progress. So pretty much we are going on 3 months now of consistent profitability, which is, I'm very happy with that. I've been trading, live trading, since April of 2019, with periods on and off where I had to jump into paper trading just because I was doing so badly. So to finally have found my edge and starting to develop that edge and control my emotions at the same time, it's progress, and you really can't be mad at progress, especially in a game where 90% of people fail. September. This September ended up being my best month. I made over $1,000 this month. So my first 4-figure month, 1,200. In terms of borrow fees, I didn't have that much borrow fees. Wasn't getting caught into really any dumb shorts. So my borrow fees ended up being 15 Canadian, 11 US. But I made that back in interest, because IB pays you interest when you are holding long positions. So I made a couple bucks more, so that I canceled out, and I'll explain why I have these long positions in a little bit. But let's look at it. So September I made 1,200. In August I made 900, and in July was my second month where I was really profitable. July I made 730, and then before that, which was really the first month I was ever profitable, I made 15. So the progress is there, but that being said, there's still a ton of mistakes I've been making. So like, when I look at it, I've had my best month, and yet my execution was still, I'd say at best 60%, 60 to 70%, I'd say at best. And also, one thing that needs to be said is I had my best month in September. So, and statistically, September is the worst month for a lot of traders. So what happens is, towards the end of summer, things kind of start to slow down. Momentum starts to lag. Except for this summer, we had a really hot summer. Like, this summer was amazing. But yeah, by the end of August, things start to lag. You have a lot of people coming out, going on vacation. Then September is just completely dead. Even in overall performance, it's ranked pretty damn horribly. So you have the September effect. So the stock market typically drops off in September. Despite no news, investors fear the September effect. But yeah, so, and I even saw, like, there was just by playing every day and being there for the market every day, I could see that there was such a lack of opportunity. And I've seen great traders in the Tim Sykes Millionaire Challenge chat that had a lot of issues this month and were stalling. So to know that I was still able to perform better in the past couple months, it shows me that I'm really getting a better grasp of things. And it also gives me confidence, because going forward, when things really pick up, November, December, next year, going into spring, I could be ready to seize those opportunities and really make bank. So let's just go through some of the worst things I've been doing first. There are some glaring issues that I've been having. And I know in the last video I said that I've been having bag holding issues, and it has not improved. Like, I'm not happy about that. It hasn't improved. So basically what used to happen is, back in May to June, I started getting into shorting, and I just kind of realized, like, if you just short and withhold like the big squeeze, usually they come down, and I'd hold a small position and wait for that to happen, and then cover, and I started getting used to that, making profits. So I got completely wrecked by one that I was a little too big on, sized up too big, and just kept going, and I had to cut. And this happened multiple times, so I had to let go of that, just kind of shorting and holding until it comes back down. But now I'm doing the opposite. I'm just holding it long until we get some news and momentum and comes back up. And it was started off, it wasn't as bad as first, because I was just doing it with OTCs, like 20,000-30,000 shares, but they were like stocks that were only like a penny, a couple pennies, so it wasn't eating away my capital. But it reached a point where it was happening with stocks that were like $3 or $4, and pretty much. So I'll show you my open positions right here for September, so you can see what I'm talking about. All of these open positions were open in September. So GNUS, they had a little bit of news. I completely chased it. I'm like, it's bottoming out. Maybe we might get a nice spike in the afternoon. Maybe we might get some continuation. And I completely entered like right at the top, right at the breakout. I did cut down my position because I started out with 400 shares, so I did take off half, which was good. But now I'm holding 200 shares and kind of waiting for something to happen, and it's just been struggling in the 120s. Just because I didn't want to swallow another 40, $50. Then, this was a penny stock. This was a 2-cent penny stock that. This was an early bag hold in the month where this one was looking like it had a perfect setup. It looked like it was breaking out. It looked like it was breaking out right here. It was holding its gains all day, and we had it. So I got in as it was crossing VWAP, crossing this whole consolidation here, as I kind of waited for the confirmation. And it was moving now, and I wanted to hold this. I wanted to give it a chance to run and break high of day, but it started failing. I bought this dip here when it kind of just dropped right there, that just random slam, and then I sold into the bounce, and I should have really just cut it there, or at least cut it when it crossed below VWAP and then bounced back to VWAP and was kind of resisting it. I should have just sold the rest of my position there, but I was stubborn about it and I didn't. So now I'm stuck in a 30,000 share position in that. But the worst bag hold was OXBR for sure. Oh, and I still have ALYI. Oh, I didn't even realize that was September as well. So yeah, ALYI, another penny stock where I had it was starting to come back up again, and I'd handled this like a disaster because I'd entered it first on a dip. So I entered it on a dip here. It had a lot of nice strength. I entered on the dip. I just got scared it was going to keep coming down, so I sold everything when it retested that dip area, and then it just rips. So then I got kind of FOMO after that, and I started building a position, and pretty much I was just building a position all the way into this pullback, and it just kept going. The stock market was getting crushed this day, so I just kept adding and adding, and then we did get a spike from ALYI on day after, and we did get another spike like maybe halfway through the month, but I was waiting for it to really go back to this area to at least get some profits. I was being greedy, which is why I didn't sell every time it had perked up in the days and weeks that followed, so I still have that. But the worst bag hold of the month was OXBR. OXBR was just, I don't even think it had any news. It was just like a short squeeze, one of those random one-day spikers. And what had happened was, it's going, I'm scalping, I'm on the way up, and then it halts, it opens from the halt, it quickly goes to 9.5, comes back down, so I'm like, alright, I'll get it since it came back down. So I think what happened at first is it might have come down. I couldn't get the wash because it was just so quick. Came all the way back up to 9.5. Then when it came down again, I took position. But then it came down further, so I added to that position. Then on the next candle, it went down even further, so I got stuck in a halt on the way down. And I had 200 shares on the way down. So I had like a 7.99 average and it opened around mid five. So this was like a $400 loss if I just sold right away. And I was just stubborn. So I added when it opened. I added 50 shares. Then when it looked like it was gonna start coming back up again, I added another 50 shares. But nope, it didn't come back up. But I was holding it, and it looked like it was basing here. So I'm like, all right, cool. We're gonna get a nice little afternoon rip, and I might even get a profit from this because now my average at this point was like 7. Cool, get it to 7.5, and I'll sell all 300 shares. That didn't happen. I was up like 170 on a day. I didn't want to eat away at those profits and be red. But had I just sold it here like 6.5, with like a $7 average, I would have lost maybe 200-300, and my net loss in a day would have only been like 150. I could tolerate that, but because I just didn't want to lose it all, I just wanted to be green. I ended up bag holding. I've been bag holding since. So $7 average with 300 shares, $2,100 just not even being able to be used, just eating away my capital. And now on a daily chart, because it's just a one-day spiker, no proven history, no real catalyst, back to the twos. It was like the high ones the other day, and I'm kind of stuck in this, either waiting till I could just my daily profits are enough where it's like, all right, cool, I'll cut it, and it won't really affect me a lot, or if I really need to use that capital. So yeah, the biggest issue is the bag holding, because I just been so stubborn to stay green on the day, not cut my losses, and just kind of getting used to some of my trades just coming down and coming back up, because there's been so much momentum in the market that it kind of went against it has went against me. I was even bag holding CBAT from the 28th, and that I was bag holding that because in the pre-market on this day it had news and it was coming up. So I kind of chased. I didn't chase at the top. I waited till a pullback, but it barely pulled back. So I was still technically chasing, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, we could get another second day run up, well, technically third. It just got destroyed, bag holded, and I got lucky because there was a Friday squeeze and it made it up. But that was recently where I sold it. So technically I finished it in October. So my worst losses came at the end of the month. So before I could really tell you what happened at the end of the month, it's best that I show you what happened going into that. So September, I had my best week ever trading. This week right here, I made over $1,000. I'd pretty much made more in that single week than I had made in the 2 months before that. I made 1800, which is 2,700 Canadian. Like, this is like more than my daily goal is to be a 6-figure trader. And what had happened is most of those wins came from SPI, and that was a beautiful, insane, one of those insane runners that only, like a black swan that you only get a few times a year. And I was really capitalizing on it. Admittedly, I was just chasing it. I was just scalping and just, yeah, pretty much scalping, chasing high day breakouts. I was getting in on a few washes as well, but I was just riding the trend up. And that's kind of what like when you get opportunities like these where it's kind of like an ATM, just keeps giving you money, it could also teach you bad habits, because it's just so easy to keep jumping back in and making money because it just keeps going up. But then once it goes down, if you just keep chasing it up and up and up, when it goes down, like what happened with OXBR, and then you get caught in a halt on the way down, you pretty much, because you're scalping such little portions of the run up, that halt all the way down is going to just eat away at most of the gains you make. SPI was $800 of that. So really, my goal is stop just scalping every little play and capitalize on the bigger picture. So bigger picture was, it had a nice support here, set up, broke out, set up, broke out. You know, it's fine to get on the washes and things, and even if you're chasing just to go small size, but it was just moving so well. I was taking like 100, 200 share positions. But imagine if this had just decided at one point during this run just crash. 100, 200 shares would have turned into $300-400 loss very easily. Like with SPI here, like I got in on the post haul. Nice. I'm really happy with how I played this, because even though I was scalping, like I was just going with the chart. When I didn't take it on this play. I waited till the haul open. I took a position here and I sold quick, 50 shares. Although I do know that there's a lot of risks with playing stocks this way. But even if you can see here, like this was a nice setup. It consolidated for over an hour, broke out, and just kept going. Like all I had to do was be patient and hold, but I wasn't. I was just kind of scalping here from here, like taking little pieces of the move, very small pieces. This was a chase. This was like just chasing all the way up. But this was like, I was basically going for, when I scalp, I usually look at whole dollar, half dollar breaks, and this was like the $9 break. I think I was going up for a 7 as well. But it could be very dangerous, you know, and it works until it doesn't really, because at a certain point that momentum is just gonna, the rug's gonna get pulled and it's just gonna drop, and it's like it could really mess with you psychologically. But yeah, this was that big consolidation where, again, I scalped here as it was breaking this little mini base here. But the goal for next month is to look at this big picture. Like, look at all this time I had to set up a base. I want to be comfortable with this base and just let it move up. And if it goes back, add as it goes nearer to the base, and only sell when the base is breached, or if I get a reasonable profit target. And once you get rewarded like this, scalping, like with SPI, once I got rewarded like that way, I kind of went into scalp mode, and that's what kind of changed my trading for the rest of the month. Like here as well, like the whole base, and I was just scalping. So I had that good week. A lot of things were going well, and some of my best plays are this week. So I had a beautiful dip buy on Workhorse, first green day, and it was a nice setup because look at how much it dropped here. Look at where it aligned with. It aligned with the breakout area, a previous crucial key breakout area. So I'm very happy with how I played this. Saw how far it gapped down. It was due for a first green day. It's a proven multi-day runner. And I scaled in. Didn't get scared out. I was early, admittedly, because I thought maybe since it gapped down, has been down so much, it would just rip right away. So I took a small position, but I was adding, and again, that's my biggest problem, is adding too early on dips. But I knew what was gonna happen with this, and I'm so happy that I gave it a chance, and then I waited. I wasn't selling early. I was waiting for it to really start ramping up, and it did. Had I had more patience though in the afternoon, it even went further. But overall, like, I got, I think, nearly $1 out of this trade. Yeah, over $1 at some points of the trade. Very happy with this. And then BLNK was another big picture play, similar to Workhorse. So BLNK, another proven multi-day runner with lots of support areas. And also similar to Workhorse, because with Workhorse, I've been experienced with this since summer, from like when I shorted it back in June, and I had a big disaster getting squeezed out, taking like almost $1,000 loss on that. So with BLNK, I'm very familiar with this stock as well from the summer. BLNK had a nice gap up over a key area it was consolidating, and heading back to this area here. And I know BLNK from experience, when it gaps up, it might fall, but it does squeeze. And that's what I was counting on. So I took a position. I was early. I was early. Took a position, added, caught the bottom nicely, started scaling out. And this, what I like about this play is I stayed in all day. I was scaling out and just changing, like developing my play as the chart told me what to do. So it pulled back. I added because it looked like it was going to break again. Here might have been a nice spot to add though, but I wanted more confirmation. I sold some here because it looked like, I was like, okay, this might fail. But then once it makes this higher low and it comes back above VWAP, I added, because the more longer the play takes to set up, you have more signals that tell you what it's trying to do. Higher lows, holding VWAP, holding the morning lows, gap up and holding that gap, setting up for a long time, making a nice support area, and then you get it slowly start ramping up towards high day, and then it breaks high day, and I pretty much sold right into the top. So I'm very happy with my execution there. And overall in the month, some other trades that I'm really happy with. VXRT was another good one. That one was another big picture play because it had gapped up from bottoming out and it was holding this area, and the intraday it was holding really well. I had taken the overnight swing on this because it had fell, but it was holding in the afternoon. So I didn't even know, I didn't expect it to go up over $1. This was like the best possible outcome I could have hoped for. I decided to hold overnight, seeing how this support held, seeing it was a former runner, seeing that it was starting to bounce, also seeing that it had a red day, but it came right back up from that red day, and we might get a break above this area here in the 8s. And then we just got a nice run. After hours, it was going crazy. So I started selling. Then the next day, started selling as well. So that was a really nice overnight hold, high day break on a former runner. So I did have that 1,000 week, and I was riding high from September to the end of the third week. So by the end of the third week, because of that $1,800 week, I was up over 2K. I was up 2,600. So how did I end the month with 1,200? Less than half of that. Well, what happened is I completely fell apart in the last week of September. Completely fell apart. It was unbelievable. It's like every time I have my best weeks, I notice I get completely wrecked right after. So like, it's crazy because I had my first $1,000 day, 1K day, when I had all those SPI trades. And I think the workhorse trade might have been the same day, or maybe not. But I had my first 4-figure day, and then the last week of September, the last day of September, I had my first 4-figure red day in months. Like, I haven't lost this much money in a day in a long time, and that happened because of Beyond Me, BYND, just completely got wrecked on this. And pretty much I was taking options, and Beyond was setting up. Like, the daily was amazing. It was setting up for a huge breakout since like last year. It's key level here. And I had gotten in on Beyond. I had gotten in on this, so I had missed this first run up, and I wish I didn't. So I kind of had chased it a bit and got a little bit of gains. Then when it pulled back, I took another position. So I had already made like $80 on this little piece here. Then I started building up. I took a position, but when it looked like it was coming back up, so I took a small position. I think I only took 2 contracts. But then it looked like it held VWAP, everything looked good. Then it looked like it was gonna fail here and break this support level. So I sold. I had to cut losses. Then I flipped to puts. At this same level here. I flipped to puts, and I'm like, all right, this is gonna be a fader. And I looked at the daily. I'm like, and I just looked at the daily. I'm like, okay, when it fails at the top, then it starts to fade. It fades back. Like here, it faded back. Right here, it faded back as well. So I figured that that would happen, but that didn't happen. So I took the puts. The good thing with the puts is I had 3, but I saw that it was just holding this area, and I didn't want to be greedy. Like, my original plan was to make back like everything I lost, wait for it to get all the way down here. But I'm like, no, you can't. I can't be greedy on this with 3 contracts. So I covered the first piece because we got a nice after I got the puts, we got a nice drop. So on the first leg down, I covered, but it was holding way too well. So even though it broke the support, it formed a new support right below, and then the next morning it just started gunning back up. I was out. I went to pick up, like, I went to get some coffee. So when I came back, it already spiked, and I'm like, okay, let me see if it pulls back, and maybe it's just a temporary spike. It starts coming back up again, so I had to cover, and pretty much the overall breakout pattern was still intact. And had I still held on to my calls and just waited and let it pan out, my calls would have been profitable, and I wouldn't even needed the puts. That being said, I had to respect this support level here, because who knows how far it could have kept falling. I wasn't acute enough with the way that I was approaching the stock, and the reason being is that I tried to tackle it again. I wasn't focused enough. I was falling apart just from losing both the calls and then the puts in the morning. So I cover the puts around here when it starts coming back up again. Then I just go for calls. Then I'm like, man, what are you doing? You're chasing. What if this comes back down again and fails to break higher? So I cover, I get scared, take another loss, $100 loss. And then a few minutes later, it just rips. I would have made back everything I lost in the puts and maybe like $100 extra if I had waited till sell the options near here, near the top. And I was just kind of losing sight of the big picture, because really that it would have been okay to even though I was chasing, it would have been okay to chase the spike, given that this was a yearly, this was a breakout from all the way, a multi-month breakout, and actually a multi-year breakout from last year. I was just thinking about my profits. I was thinking about what happened if this trade goes sour. I was losing sight of this area still holding. And when you look at it with the 15-minute, like, it's beautiful. Like, it went up, it held halfway. A lot of good spikers, they'll spike, go down halfway, and it holds halfway. So even though it broke this support, it still held roughly 50% of the morning spike. What ends up happening is I'm like, all right, since the trend is still intact, let me start getting in on the pullback. And this is like just where a disaster, like, I completely fell apart from here. So I was like, let me start scaling on the pullback. I start scaling in, and I'm like, I want to wait till we get a nice high day break. I'm gonna scale in, and I'm not gonna start selling until at least I get a nice range to get some nice profits out of it. What happens is the thing just starts failing so hard, like fails this bounce here, fails VWAP. I really should have started selling here, but I just started adding to my averaging down all the way to here. I got lucky that it gave one last shot at VWAP. So usually you might get that last shot at VWAP. I sold some, and my whole mind was, okay, if we go back above VWAP, because I really want this to work out, maybe we'll get the high day break now. So I had like 8 contracts at one point, so I was holding more than half my position, like 5 contracts for that high day break. I'm like, wow, when this works, 5 contracts, like, I want to make bank on this and pretty much make back everything I lost. But it quickly fails. I should have cut it here, cut the rest of the shares at break even, but I didn't. And then I just start averaging down again, adding here, and then it keeps going down. I should have just sold off when it broke this support level. It just kept going, because this is a regular, like, for a stock that's supposed to be a multi-day breakout, supposed to be strong, this is too much weakness. And then it keeps going down, and eventually I have to cut. And I missed sight, because this would have been an amazing dip buy right here. It held the green to red area right here. I remember someone in the chat was alerting it, but I was kind of done at that point. And you can see here that green to red area. Green to red where it closed yesterday. It perfectly held that support area. And then we got a nice bounce right to VWAP. This would have been where the money was at. If I just cut the losses early once the breakout was failing, once the pullback was failing, this would have been a great opportunity. But yeah, I fell apart. But even when I fell apart, I still managed to get my best month. So obviously I'm not happy with that. And it sucks to end September with like my worst losses in a long time. But that being said, I was still able to walk away my best month. So, and there's some other mistakes that happened too. Like once that whole beyond situation was happening, like during those 2 days at the end of September, beginning of this week, I was just doing like a lot of dumb shit, kind of chasing, taking awkward plays and positions that I know from past experience don't usually work out. Going forward, it's more just focusing. Like I can't bag hold. I'm actually stuck in a bag hold right now, but those are I'll talk about that when my October report comes out. And this time the bag holds are progressively getting worse and eating more of my capital, which is what I feared would happen if I kept doing it, and it's what happened. But that's the price I pay for making this mistake. So this is what happens. Yeah, after this point I can't keep bag holding. It's not worth it on my account. Going forward, in order to keep sustaining this level of improvement, I just gotta focus on the plays that I'm great at and playing the big picture breakouts, playing the dips, scaling in properly on the dips so I'm not too early and having to take too many losses on the way down. And rather than scalping high day breakouts, instead of chasing with bigger size, maybe starting smaller with the breakout. I have right here a note on my wall that I'm supposed to obey and I just don't even follow it all. Quarter size when entering on the breakout, and then patient when adding pullbacks. And just letting the chart play out and tell me what it wants to do. Because I had some great plays this month, especially with the workhorse dip, the overnight long on VXRT, and then the dip and the pre-high day breakout on BLNK. So my longs have been going pretty good. I did have a short on Sava, but that was another situation like that it wasn't smart at all. It was like a bag hold, because what had happened was I chased this breakout, didn't add on the pullback. I just chased 200 shares on this breakout, and then when it failed here, I got pissed. I got really frustrated, so I sold the shares I bought here, which for like I think over 100 loss, and I just immediately shorted because I'm like, okay, if this is not working, it's gonna fail at this point. So I covered a little bit here, and I was like, I think max size my account almost, or a big portion of my account for sure. Then it just rips, and I wish I was long here. Like, this is why you save your bullets, save your shares for when you get the nice pullbacks, because when it breaks this temporary, like this support wasn't even that strong of support to use, because this was a more key level since it had more time to confirm itself. But when you think it's supposed to go down but it keeps going up again, it's a good sign that we might get a squeeze up, especially on a Friday. Friday is notorious for short squeezes, but we got the nice breakout here, and Sava was holding its gains really nicely. But what led me to hold this short, obviously it's risky, you could have gapped up. What led me to hold this short is that Sava just has a bad history with not holding its gains. Even here, didn't hold it. And it was already so extended from the $3 areas, which is why I felt okay to be stubborn with it. And that ended up working out nicely. That being said, Sava did end up ripping even more. Just after that day I covered, the next day after it gapped out, which is crazy. So you gotta be careful when you take these shorts, and this is a mistake. I haven't shorted like this just like out of blind frustration and in like maybe over a month. That pretty much covers my recap. Looking forward to see what October brings, seeing that momentum come back. We haven't really gotten much multi-day runners. What we've been getting a lot is these like single day spikers like OXBR, like these. We had, I think, ADIL. SPI, just these random single day spikers with no proven history of multi-day running. I prefer multi-day runners where you can really watch them run and set up support levels, and you could really get an idea of the story. You know, good hot sector plays with news because they're a lot stronger. They have a lot more volume, and they're not as sketchy. That's about it for this video. I don't really want to keep rambling. Let me know how your trading has been going, how your September has been going. We only have 3 months left in the year. I hope you guys kill it. Leave a comment below, like this, and take care. Be back soon.
Pushing to the limit and we ain't gonna touch the brake. Running out of